Hey there, YouTube. Welcome to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer, and this is my next game session. So I'm actually recording this on a Saturday night instead of a Friday night. I normally always do it on a Friday night, but so I had a change of plans. I'm working on something right now. Don't want to let on too much, but anyways, working the kinks out, and I did a one-off adventure with with a friend over the internet that I DM'd for him, and we're just kind of trying to work some things out, and it was pretty fun. So yeah, you gotta love it. It was kind of nice, and yeah, anyways, I love telling stories, so I just wanted to, anyways, that doesn't really have any bearing on this. You're probably thinking, Artichoke, what does that have to do with the game and a continuation of the story? Absolutely nothing. But before we get into this, a couple of things I want to talk about. First thing, I'm going to get the disclaimer out of the way. If you like these videos, click the like button, and if you have not subscribed, click the subscribe button followed by the bell icon, and every time I upload a new video you will get a notification so you do not miss one. Okay, so a couple of things I'm going to be integrating into the game moving forward that I wanted to kind of talk to you about. One of them, and I talked about this in a very recent video I uploaded that I'll be using, is out of this book, Random Encounters. And I'm going to explain to you what I'm going to be utilizing out of this, and that's going to be at the back of the book, which is the NPC generator. So I'm going to pull from this resource, and it's going to give me some names and unique backgrounds that I can also add into my random cards that I draw here. But on top of that, another thing I'm going to integrate into it for the NPCs to add a little bit more story and flavor to it is going to be this one, which was recommended to me from my friend Lance, and Mythic Variations 2. And with this, it has a lot of charts in the back. I mean, this book is relatively new to me. I just received it, and I spent a little bit of time today familiarizing myself with it. But the cool thing is, I do like are the tables for the descriptors, descriptor, and the action. So, but with that being said, I'm not going to give up on my old trusty 6-shooter here, Scarlet Heroes, which I'll be using mainly for my Oracle in the back. And yeah, so with that being said, if you see me pull these out throughout the game sessions and I'm going through there, that way you guys kind of know what's going on and what books I am pulling the references out of, if you will. And besides that, that's really all I'm using, except for my reference out of the main core rulebook and of course the monster manual that I'll need some stats for. And of course, cannot forget this one, Prince of Apocalypse, or Temple of Elemental Evil, which is I'm calling it. So, if you decide to run this adventure for yourself, or a campaign module, if you will, a little trick, and I'm going to show you what I have done, not to spoil anything for myself in here. So the way that this module is set up, and as the adventurers enter the town of Red Larch, they're going to meet a few NPCs that are going to give them some suggestions, I guess you would say, to some side quests. And the the whole point behind it is if you're starting your character out as a first level, it's going to help you level up to third level before you actually get into the real adventure. And the entry level for the main adventure is third level, which is the point behind it, which is cool. I like that. I really do. Which is, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. I hope not, because I just have one more level to level up. My characters are currently at second level at this point, but I'm getting a little off the beaten track here. So what I did is I went through and I made me my own little random table. And I didn't read too far into it to spoil it, but I just got enough of the idea so I can make myself the table, and as I roll them, I can go to that area in the book, and then at that point further read to set that little side quest up. And some of the more dangerous NPCs that will be encountered, and of course some of the main NPCs over here with their names. Now the reason why I put their names over here is so 3 of these side quests, if you will, are based around main NPCs in this book. So it's just going to make it easier instead of flipping through the book and searching and trying to find the names and all that. I already have everything here. Nothing will get slowed down, and I can just go straight into it and have a little reference sheet. I just wanted to bring that up to you if you guys decide to run a campaign like this solo for yourself, if you've never done it before. I mean, if you have and you're enjoying it, then you found your own way, and that's cool, and just keep doing that. But if not, and you're looking to do that, that's a cool little trick that you can use, and you put it in there. Give yourself a little cheat sheet. That way, when you're playing, you don't have to stop playing to start digging through that book and reading and take away from time you should be playing, because you just have everything here already at your fingertips. Okay, with that being said and that out of the way, let's further continue with our story. So, our characters pick up entering, well, within an hour's walk from where they had their goodbye to Michael, and within about an hour's walk, as promised, they finally reached the town of Red Larch. It's at that point that Carr knew he's kind of like, something feels oddly familiar about this place, but I cannot place it. And Rangrim says, I don't care how familiar it is to you. He says, I want to find somewhere I can get a really good tankard of ale, he says, and get that horrible taste of goblin out of my mouth. So, as they enter the town of Red Larch, and they are walking around, if you will, taking everything in, and surprised. I'm not going to... do I want to do that yet? No, I don't. Surprised to our town of Red Larch here, their disbelief, most of the people are kind of just unfazed by their presence as they come in. It's, for the size of town it is, it's a pretty popular town. A lot of people pass through, and particularly, so their arrival isn't really, how can I put this? Like, the way they were looked upon in Longsaddle, it's more or less like, oh, okay, yeah, more people, great, moving on. And it's at that point, as they are continuing down the long road, they see a building with, well, let me just read you the... there it is. So as they're walking down, they see an inn, and there is a 3-story stone structure crowned by a steep slate roof that bristles with many chimneys. A signboard juts over the top. over the door, I'm sorry, hanging from chains. It's a 10-foot long carved wooden scimitar emblazoned with the inn's name in red paint on both sides. The inn yard with stables and outbuildings lie behind the building. The name of the inn is the Swinging Sword. The Swinging Sword is welcoming and luxurious by the area's rustic standards. It has many rooms, so each room boasts a hearth, warm draperies and tapestries, and running water provided by roof cisterns. Now run, well, we can't get into this. So I'm going to stop right there. I don't want to go any further with any, just wind up spoiling stuff, but I figured let's set the setting. So, they see the sign, and it's at that point, Rangram is like, there, right there. Let's stop in and get ourselves a drink and take ourselves a rest for a little bit. So, as they open the door to the tavern, this is where our story begins, in the town of Red Larch. Now, let me go to my oracle. I have to get some answers to questions that I have, and so if you're wondering what this thing is right here, I took it out of my HeroQuest board game, and it's actually a fireplace. I said, you know, why not use it for my RPG in this setting? That way I can see everything. And anyways, let's roll a die. So, is the tavern very busy as the adventurers enter? No, it's not. Very cool. So, as they enter in the tavern, there's only a few patrons that seem to be, at that point, drinking and mingling amongst themselves. Now, as they walk into the tavern, they are greeted by a very confident, let me draw an NPC card to see who we're dealing with here. The last time I did this, it didn't it didn't turn out too well. I like that one. I think I'm going to go with that one. Which the NPC card is a scout. So, as they walk in, they are greeted by a very well-spoken, competent woman that tends the bar. And it's at that point, I want to get to my NPC tables here. She is a stranger, so let's see how she reacts to us. 2d6. She says, well met, adventurers. Or are you travelers? What is it? So at that point, Rangram is like, we're adventurers. We're, if you could say that. We are currently, well, we're currently seeking some, leads, if you will. And she's like, leads? Uh-huh, okay. She goes, well, we have fine accommodations here. Rooms, we're having a little problem right now with, the kitchen, so there is a delay time with the food, but I promise you the food is, it'll be fresh, and whatever you order, I think you will be pleased with. And of course, we have some of the best ales, meads, and wines that it can be offered in this part of the realm, if you will. And he's like, at that point, Rangram takes out a gold coin and he slaps it down on the bar and he says, I'll take an ale. He goes, give them what they want and just keep the ales coming. Rangram and Cardew and all of them, they gather around a table and they take a seat. She brings their drinks out to them, and she slides a mead in front of Cardew, a tankard of ale for Rangram, and a large tankard of ale for Merrick. And they take a big swig of their drinks and kind of a sigh of relief of, they finally got a chance to sit down and actually take a breather. It's been a crazy couple of days, and this is the first amount of normalcy, if you will, that they have at that point experienced, if you will. So now, what I want to do is I want to roll on my oracle. I want to see, do they overhear any rumors of Longsaddle? An 8. No. Let me roll on that subcategory. No, they hear the patrons there, normal chit chat about their daily chores, daily lives, stuff like that. So at that point, they notice one of the NPCs begins to get a fire going in the fireplace and is stoking the fire up, if you will. And Rangram is like, he says, I think that's what we need, is a good night's sleep, a warm hearth, and some ale. He says, sounds good to me. Cardew is sitting, and he is, with his hood pulled forward to conceal his face. He's staring into his mead, and he is in deep thought. And Merrick looks over at him and says, so is this the place your god has told you to come, and what now? What can we expect now? What do we do? Cardew sips down a large gulp of his mead and he says, well, he said, for starters, he says, why don't you go find a corner to do what you do and go play some music. He says, I wish to be entertained. I'll be on your way. Merrick kind of, I want to see how Merrick is going to react to that. Well, I'm just going to roll a 20-sider and compare that, a 12, against his charisma score. So he's got a +2, which he rolled a 12, which is a 14. And right on. It's at that point, Merrick looks over at him and he says, "As you wish, my lord." He says, "I will right away play music to entertain you." He says, "Let's not have the almighty powerful Carnu," he says, "withering away with his mead all to his thoughts." And he looks over at Carnu, and Carnu kind of sees they both look at one another for a second, and they begin to chuckle amongst themselves. Carnu pulls out a set of panpipes that he has, and he begins to play softly with the panpipes, and the sound begins to, at that point, change the atmosphere, if you will, into the tavern. People seemed a little bit more relaxed and a little more happier, if you will. As the innkeeper comes back to check on them, and she says, "My name is Kaylessa Urkwell." She says, "And you maybe," and she looks. Rangram at that point, he says, "Alright, my name is, set my book over here out of the way, get my character sheets going on here." Says, "My name is, Rangram," and he gets ready to say Ironfell, but then he remembers briefly what Michael had told him, and he says, "Stouthammer. My name is Rangram Stouthammer." She goes, Stouthammer. She goes, "Huh, okay, Rangram Stouthammer. And your companion here?" She goes, "This is Carnu Deimos, and the gentleman here playing this whistle pipes, this is Merrick Gilmore." He, at that point, stops momentarily and nods to her and goes back to playing. And she's just like, "So, what are your plans? Are you planning on staying here in the beautiful town of Red Larch for a while, or are you just passing through?" He's like, "I think we're going to be sticking around, maybe for a few days or so, just to see how things go." She's like, "Okay, alright." Well, she's like, "Here's your drinks. I'll be back. Let me know if you want any food, and we will go from there at that point." And he's like, right, alright. So let me see how much time has... So about 2 hours have passed since they have arrived. It's at that point a few more patrons begin to come into the tavern, and it's getting closer to evening, and it's at that point Kaylissa comes back over to the table and she says, "So, is there anything more I can do? Would you like to get some accommodations, perhaps some food?" And Rangram's like, He says, "Yeah, well, goes, what do you have? What do you have to offer here?" She says, "Well, the hunters have brought back fresh venison today that they are currently, it's being grilled as we speak." He's like, "I haven't had fresh venison in a while." He says, "Alright, bring us all some venison." And he says, "Yeah, for accommodations." He says, would you have a room to accommodate all of us?" And she says, "I think we can accommodate you. We'll be able to do that. There might be a slight upcharge on that, of course." if we have to move things around in the room and add another bed. And he's like, okay. He says, here's 2 gold. Will that cover it, or will it be more? She says, well, she says, I'll tell you what. She says, for 3 gold, it'll take care of your accommodations and your dinner tonight. And she says, and considering if you are the adventurous type, it might get you a little information too. Rangram looks over at Cardew to judge by Carnew's face as to what he thinks. Carnew looks at him and nods yes, and quietly goes back to sipping on his mead. And he's like, sure, absolutely, 3 gold, here you are. And he puts the 3 gold coins down on the table. She scoops them up, and with a grin, she says, have your dinner right up, and another round for everybody. And she signals to the kitchen help, and walks off. It's at that point that Carnew says, I feel there's going to be changes soon and quickly. It's hard for me to explain, but I'm getting the overwhelming feeling that I think trouble's gonna find us before too long. Maybe we should be careful. Be careful of what you talk about, and if I were you, I wouldn't bring up, the town, the last town. He says, who knows how far the story and the tale of that place burning has carried. Okay. As the evening wears on, they eat their meals, and Kalissa comes back, and she sits down at the table with them, and she's talking, so she's able to talk freely without too many people overhearing what she has to say. Kalissa explains to him that there's been a lot of weird people and weird things going on in the town of Red Larch lately. It's just, I've been here for my whole life, and as of late, things just, there's something going on. Ask a few people, and you'll find out pretty quickly what they're talking about. Particularly, she said, you know what I can recommend for you right now, she said, is you would just have to see it for yourself. And it's a place called Lance Rock. It's not far from here, and perhaps you should go and just see for yourself in the morning. And maybe it's just my imagination, or maybe not, but she says there's just something, I cannot put my finger on it, something is not right. It's almost as if it's like there is another city, if you will, operating beneath the city of Red Larch, the legitimate city. But she goes, that's the best way I can explain it to you. I know it sounds crazy, but she said, I don't know how else to explain it. Rangram takes a gulp of his ale, and he's like, no, I got a pretty good idea of what you're talking about. He said, Carnew, at that point, oh, this is too good to pass up. This just clicked in my mind, and I'm like, I gotta do this. So I'm gonna roll a 20-sider to see if he succeeds. A 5. He doesn't. Carnu goes to kind of kick Rangram in the shim to shut him up, because he's like, kind of, giving up the spilling the beans, if you will. Like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like this last place we went to, there was like this cultist, and the place totally burned down, and there was mayhem everywhere, and we're able to escape barely with our lives, and everything else. So let's see what happens. He goes to kick Rangram. Does he... I want to see what the... Actually, I'm going to roll my percentage die. I want to see if he disturbs the table. No, he doesn't. So, he goes to kick him, and he misses. And at that point, Rangram's like, yeah, unfortunately, we've met a few people that, weren't as what they, portrayed themselves to be. He said, so I can understand what you're talking about. And, she says, good. She goes, well, you seem like good, honest people, and, if you're looking for work, she said, I can, point you in the right direction, if that's what you're looking for. She says, but in the morning, go and check out Lance Rock, and, well, tell me what you think. Okay, so at that point, they finish off their ale. I want to do one other check. What I want to see is, as the evening wears on, do they overhear any rumors from the other NPCs? So let me roll on my Oracle, a 17. Ooh, yeah. Yes, they do. Okay. What is the percentage? It's about long saddle. Very low. Okay, so they overhear the NPCs and talking about I'm going to go to this one right here. Let's see what they are actually... Let's go into the mythic variations too and see. They can overhear the NPCs talking about what they would wish for if they could change some of the things that have been happening in Red Larch later, and how they could improve life, if you will. How things could be better if it was them running things and not the others who are in charge of it that just don't know what they're doing. Typical commoner talk amongst people as they get a few drinks in them and get a little loose-lipped. So it's at that point that evening has come, and they have retired to their quarters to get a decent night's sleep. Now, let's turn to that section in the book, and let's see where it's at and how to map it out and what I need to do from there. Which is the reason why I did what I did by making this little chart. Just sped things up quite a bit. Lance Rock. Characters who confront troublesome situations in the wilderness attract the attention of Kaelisa Inkwell, the proprietor of the Swinging Sword, Red Larch area. Kaelisa believes an evil influence emanating from Lance Rock is the source of Red Larch's troubles. She asks the characters, who should still be first level, well, we're not, to find out what's going on. Wow, I haven't even read this. I'm just reading this right now, so that's pretty good. The characters discover that... Oh, I don't want to get into that, so that's where I'm going to stop right there. And I'm going to mark this page. And of course, this is going to be... Alright. So, I am going to get things set up real quick. Okay. So, the morning arrives. They go about their morning routine and then they head out. After a short journey through relaxing, quiet environment, which only takes them about an hour by foot to reach there, by Kaelisa's directions, they come to a patch of forest, and as they move through the forest, it begins to get very rocky, if you will. Now, with that being said, it's at that point, Carnu, with his hood pulled tightly around his head as he's more or less cursing, if you will, the daylight that's hurting his eyes. Rangrim is looking at the stones, and I want to see if he notices anything about this area. And let's see here. He does have... Well, it's natural stone formation, so I don't think that's necessarily... I'm just going to use his... I'm going to do an intelligence roll for him. And I'm going to see if he notices anything. No, he does not. So, as they're following her directions and they're moving through the area, it's at that point they notice they're kind of on a worn path. Not really a worn path, but they can tell it's a path that almost seems as if it's used regularly. And they begin to follow that. As they come around the side of the outcropping of Lance Rock, it is at that point that they find nestled... Well, I can't say that they find it. Let me do this the fair way. Let me roll a... I'm going to roll a perception check for Rangrim first. And considering... Yeah, I ain't going to worry about that. Okay, he doesn't see anything. Let's try Merrick. Merrick is following up behind him. Same thing, perception. No, he's not seeing anything either. Now, last but not least, we'll have disadvantage, because he's out in the daylight, will be Carnu. No. Alright, so how do I want to do this? I don't see it yet. Do they notice? I'm going to roll my percentage die here. I want to see what the percentage, if they notice a particular foul odor. They do not. So as they continue around the rocky outcropping of Lance Rock, is at that point they come upon a opening which lies there. Now, with that being said, let's see what I'm going to do now. I think I'm going to send Carnu So Carnu, at that point, he is going to... He doesn't enter, but he cautiously, with his sword drawn, goes into just the very opening, and he's gonna peer in and see if he can see anything anything that would alert him to danger, if you will. So I'm going to set my DC for this. I'm going to roll a 10-sider, DC 19, and because he does have Drought Dark Vision, I'm going to give him advantage on this roll for this. Let's see how this goes. Takes a 14. Okay, he does not hit. He doesn't see anything that's giving him any indications that there's any danger, I guess you would say, up ahead. And it's at that point he motions to them, "Come on, come on." Merrick and Rangram follow Carnu's lead here. Alright. Now that I got that set up. So, he can see pretty far into this area, if you will, that I'm going to unveil a little bit more as we get into it. Rangram cannot see in complete darkness, but he can see in low light. And at that point, he goes through his pack and he pulls out, looking for a torch, and he's like, damn. He says, last torch. He says, I forgot to pick some up in town. He said, hopefully this will last us as long as we need it. Carnu looks over at him jokingly and says, what's the matter? Are you afraid of the dark, dwarf? And he's just like, no, I don't have drow eyes to her. He says, come on now. He says, enough fooling around. He says, get out that flint and steel and let's get this thing going. So he, till they get the torch flaming up. Merrick just kind of says, well, I could have taken care of that for you, but if you want to use the torch, that's fine. He says, here, I'll carry the torch. You two go ahead. He says, that way if something happens, they're like, right, something happens. We know you got our back, right? He's like, exactly. So at that point, they begin to enter into this area a little bit further, trying to see if they can, at that point, validate Kalissa's claims that you would just have to go out here and see it for yourself to figure out exactly what is going on. As they enter in, now I am going to roll a con save for all three of them. And I'll explain to you why that is. So I'm going to have the red one for Carnu, this other red one will be for Merrick, and then the blue one will be for Rangram. So, okay, Carnu is fine. Merrick is up in the air there. +3. 11. And the DC for this is going to be a 10. It's going to be very, very easy for them to be able to get this. And Rangram. Alright, so Rangram gets it, and so the only one that really has a problem and is just like, oh god, what is that? And then they notice a familiar smell of death, if you will, rot, that they smell hanging in the air of this area. Rangram looks around and he says, seems to be a natural cave that we found here. He says, and by the smells of it, smells like something died in here. As they head deeper into the area exploring, it's at that point, because I didn't read this all the way through, but it's okay, because they didn't notice it, so that's something that that's pretty cool. So as they 50. It's at this point, as they go deeper into the cave system, that they find here, sprawled out on the floor of the cave, is the source of the stench that they've been smelling. The body is sprawled out on the floor into the passage. The corpse, well, let me see if I'm going to use Carnu to do this. The Carnu is going to look at the corpse we have here and see if he can, like, identify, if you will, what he's looking at. I just want to see how well of a roll. So it's really decomposed, but as he's studying it, he figures out it's the corpse of a human male, and it's sprawled on its back, and it wears only leather breeches. Let me see if... I want to check my oracle. So, is there something that perhaps catches Rangram's or Merrick's eye about this corpse, too? No, there's not. They're just kind of like, it's a dead body. Is there something that will catch Carnu's eye? Is there something... let's see. 12. There is. So, as Carnu goes to investigate a little bit further as to if he can find anything perhaps helpful that could possibly a clue, maybe something with an insignia, if you will, or anything that could possibly help identify this person when they get back to town. Maybe it'll give some closure to somebody at that point, if you will. He takes his sword and sifts around the body to see if, like I said, if there's anything that's identifiable, anything that could possibly be used, if you will. It's at that point the corpse begins to move. Let me get to... Gotta pull up some stats here for this. There we are. We are in business. So it's at that point the corpse begins to move and makes a type of noise as it begins to stand up and animate, pulling itself to its feet in a very almost uncoordinated, unbalanced type of way. Now, they have not encountered these yet. First thing is first, I have to roll and see if any of them are frightened by what they see. So let's get that out of the way first. I'm going to roll for Merrick. I'm going to roll a save for him. And I'm going to use... I'm going to use his wisdom for this. Let me see. Okay, and let me roll a 10-sider to set my base. So, wow. Alright, it's going to be a 20. They've never seen anything like this before. So, Merrick comes in at an 18, and he is frightened by what he's seeing, an animated corpse. Rangram, however, because they have dealt with skeletons, I'm going to give him advantage to this against his wisdom, and I want to see how he comes in. He'll take the 19 plus that, so Rangram is okay. Same thing with Carnu. Even though Merrick saw these skeletons, he really didn't last all that long. So, with Carnu, let's go with him. Oh my god. Double ones. I cannot believe it. I just cannot believe it. Yeah. Carnu is frozen in fear as to what he sees. So, sometimes you just got to, wow. Sometimes you just gotta say the things that make you go, Alright. Let me get... scratch pad out here and get some initiatives going. So... Alright. Rangram, wow, he's going to be moving pretty dang quick. Let's see what our zombie is rolling at. What I would expect from a zombie. Very slow. Okay. So, Carnu loses this first round because he is just held, captivated by fear, basically. The drow, I cannot believe this. Sometimes you have to laugh at what the dice do to you. Merrick is back here. He has the torch, which is illuminating this area, so Rangram, with his low light vision, can see his opponent very well. He draws his battle axe, and at that point, steps up screaming, "What's wrong with you? Kill the thing!" So at that point, he swings at the zombie. Let's see what he does. Come on, Rangram. Okay, right on. He hits the zombie right on. He's got an AC of 8. And, wait a minute. I'm looking at the wrong character sheet here. There we go. He gets way more. He rolled a 7, so he gets plus 6 for his bonus. So he's, yeah, at that point, we're ready to do some damage. It's going to do a 1d12 plus 4. It's going to do 8 points of damage. Unfortunately, this guy's pretty tough. Okay. That was Rangrim's turn. Carnew's out, and that's going to leave Merrick. Let me see what I want to do with Merrick. Merrick is going to cast Thunder Wave, which he will have to use entire action to do this. It's instant, though, after he does, and it creates a 15-foot cube that radiates from him, and creatures must save or take 2d8 thunder damage and be pushed 10 feet away. Merrick is going to step up and cast Thunder Wave. Now, as far as the zombie goes, he's not really going to get much of a save. He's got immunities to poison, but that's about it. Let's roll a 2d8, see how much damage he gets, and then we'll take it from there. Eight points. I will take that. Oh. Did that wrong. So first I have to see if my spell actually hits him. So 1d20 plus 4. Okay, he rolled an 18. This spell does hit him. It's going to do 8 points of damage to him. Now he will be pushed at that point 10 feet away. So he's just pushed 5, 10. He's pushed back to here. Now, at this point, it is the encounter's turn. The zombie makes a and begins to move towards Rangrim. And he's going to use a slam attack, a melee weapon attack. He gets a +3 to hit, and he has a 5-foot range to one target against him. Oh, this is gonna be... He rolls a 1. Ooh. The creature rolled a 1, which means it's time to break out the Critinomicon. Let's see what is in store. Entry 4 is what I am looking for. that 20 and see what we get. 7. Alright, well, not really too much. So as he goes to swing to hit Rangram, Rangram is able to lean over out of the way of the attack. He hits the cave wall, and at that point, part of the greaves that this corpse is wearing slides off to the cave floor, and he's just like, "Rah!" Okay, now back before I end this round, I want to roll and see if he has snapped out of his fright yet, if you will. So let me re-roll a 10-sider and see where the DC is going to fall. A 17 this time. Oh, man. Come on, Ring. Come on, Carnu. Don't do this to me now. Gets a +4. Yes! Okay, he doesn't even need his bonuses, so he will be back in the game next round. Okay. Top of the batting order is going to be Rangram. Rangram just winds up his battle axe and roar! He's going to get a +6 for his bonus. Oh, doesn't even need to add him. He just hits. I'm going straight for damage. 11 points. It's at that point, Rangram winds up and he's just right across this thing's head. Now, it does say in here for the zombie, undead fortitude. If damage reduces a zombie to 0 hit points, it must make a Constitution saving throw with a DC of 5 plus the damage taken, unless the damage is radiant or from a critical hit. On a success, the zombie drops to 1 hit point instead. That's pretty rude. Okay, so he took a total of 14 points of damage plus 5. That'd be 19. And he has a +3 to his con. Wow. No. He does not save. It's at that point that the zombie head is just taken right off the body. And its animated corpse, just and slumps to the floor. Carnu at that point is just kind of sitting there looking at Rangram. He's like, let me guess, another cultist? All right. It's at that point Carnu moves forward ever so cautiously. And as they move deeper into the cave system, I think we can get rid of some of these tiles now. He, at that point, notices that the cave begins to take a downward slope, if you will. And even Rangram can notice. He's like, seems like we're going downhill, deeper into the system. He said, just be very careful and be on the lookout, if you will. Okay, so his drow eyes can see as they're going down the slight grade. It opens up into a larger area. First thing I want to do, before I go any further with this, and before I read the next caption, that's the thing. I'm using this module, if you will, and so far I've used it to word for the first encounter, and I've kind of found it's kind of weak. It's kind of like anti-climatic, if you will, and I think it needs a little bit of artichoke dip influence and sprinkled over this. So starting from here on out, yeah, I'm going to be adding a little bit more into it and just using it as a backdrop, as I said. So, as Carnu gets to the area in question, I'm going to roll a perception check and see if he sees anything. Versus 19, he rolled an 8. So he doesn't see anything that points itself out as there's danger in here. So now let me see. A round high ceiling cave opens here. It has 2 narrow exits, one leading north and the other south. A flat boulder sits in the center of the cave. It's about 6 feet across, 8 feet long, and 3 feet high. Dark stains color its top. Okay, so let's set this area up here a little bit more. And let's open up the battle map a little bit more. I'll bring this into view for you folks so you can see. Boom. And there are some stones, as the way that they explained it, in this area, like so. Okay, that'll be good. So, Carnu's going to... I'm going to enter the room as quietly as I possibly can. I'm going to roll stealth. So with my dexterity, I get a +3 and a +2 with my proficiency. So that'll give me a +5. So that's going to give me a 14. So I enter here moving as cautiously and quietly as I can. Glad I did that. Okay. So, as Carnu enters, very quietly, I'm going to, at that point, wow, a 19. Okay. I'm going to roll and see if he notices this. He does not. Even with the bonuses added, it's not going to make a difference. So at this point, I'm going to investigate what he can see, the discoloring on these rocks. And as he moves up there quietly, now I have to roll, because I have a 14, and I want to see. Oh. As he gets closer to the rocks, he hits some loose gravel, and the sound of rocks at that point echo through the chamber. It's at that point, what he doesn't notice is up here above his location. So I can set this here, and I can set another tile up here to set the... So unknown to him, what he does not see is there are a couple of more zombies. Okay. At that point, I guess I don't really get this in the storyline, but as I suggested, okay. The zombies push this boulder off the ledge down towards Carnu. Carnu at this point is going to have to make a dexterity save of 12, which I don't think is going to be a problem. Let's see how that works out. He's got a dex of 19, so he gets a +4. And then his proficiency. So he's going to get a +6 to this roll. Okay, he doesn't even have to add his bonuses. He gets a 14. As he makes that noise, and these two react to his presence there, he can hear the sound of the boulder rolling, and as his drow eyes look up into this direction, you can see this large boulder that is now moving towards him. He is able to, at that point, maneuver and work his way out of it, moving back here, just as this thing falls. Boom, right there. Okay, now let's... At that point, I'm going to redo the initiatives here. It's only fair. And let's... So he's going to get that a 2, but they have a minus. That would give him a 0. I can't. Okay, that's... Okay, 8. So the encounter has 8. Okay. So they got a -2 to their dexterity, and I rolled a 2, which would, yeah, mean that they just don't move. So Carnu will be moving into 15. Rangrim. Well, it's not too bad. And then 15 for Merrick, plus his HP. This will be 18. Yowzers. Okay, 18 for Merrick. And of course, because they have all encountered a zombie now, I don't have to worry about that whole entire frightened ordeal anymore. It's at that point which the zombies drop from this ledge down onto the main floor. And with that being said, I'm going to go into the initiative round, which the top one will be Merrick, and I want to see what I'm going to have him do. I've already cast a spell. What the heck? I have my hand axe. Merrick, he's got a torch in one hand. He's going to pull up his axe, and I'm going to throw it at one of these zombies right here. Now, 20, let me see, 5, 10, 15. So he's well within that range. The zombies are heading that way, so I'm going to give him advantage to that roll. And he's going to get a +6 bonus to that. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that hand axe finds its mark. It just bam, right into the back. And let's see how much damage it does. 1d6 plus 1. 3 points, which is not bad. I mean, hey, it is what it is, and every little bit helps, right? And I got 22 points each. Alright. That was number 2 he threw that at. Okay. So now moving on to Carnu. Carnu already has his sword drawn. Let me see what I want to do with Carnu. Debating whether I want to use Hellish Rebuke. Yeah, I think I'm going to use that. So he's going to cast a spell on number 1 right here, which is Hellish Rebuke. And, well, let's do it this way first. Let's get this out of the way. So I'll have a +5 to the roll. Let's see if it hits its intended target. It does. And it's going to do 2d10 fire damage. Let's get that fire damage out of the way here. 8 points. Hey, I will take it. So, at that point, a blast of fire just goes. Oh man, good times, good times. And that was Carnu's turn. Now it's Rangrim's turn. Rangram he sees the fire blast that came this way, and he looks over at Merrick and he's like, I think I'll take the other one. We'll see if I can get your hand axe back. And he 5, 10, and comes running up behind this guy, just with his axe drawn, ready to just clobber this thing to death. Let me see. So he's going to get +2, a +6 to his roll. And he only got an AC 8. A 13 doesn't even really need to, even the bonuses. So let's roll our 1d12. Oh, 5. Hey, I'll take it. And he's going to take 9 points of damage. This zombie stumbles for a moment and turns slowly to face Rangram. His Rangram is sitting there just with fear, not fear, but anger in his eyes, just going like that. And now, of course, it's the zombie's turn. Okay, this zombie right here with smoldering flames, if you will, still on him, just smoldering away, takes a step towards Carnu to attack. Let's resolve that first. He gets a slam attack, which is treated as a +3 melee attack. So let's roll that and let's see how that works out. He gets a 6 +9. No, he does not hit. He's going to do the same attack on Rangram. Once again, a 6 +3 is a 9. Does not hit. And that ends their turn, which goes back to Merrick. Merrick, at that point, he has the torch, and unfortunately his hand axe is lodged in the back of the zombie right here. So let's see what Merrick can do at this point. The good old short bow. Merrick moves over here, and he sets the torch. What he does is he throws the torch down here to illuminate this area. He pulls his bow and knocks an arrow and draws up, aiming on the other side of his companion there. So he's going to get a +3 to this roll. Oh yeah, 16, don't even need the bonuses. And it's going to do 1d6 +3 points of damage. So that zombie's going to take 6 more points of damage. Okay, now, that was Merrick's turn. Now it is Carnu's turn. Carnu still has his sword in his offhand. And he's just going to quickly go into his hand and back to this zombie here. So let's roll for that. So I'm going to use this blue dice. It's been doing pretty good for me so far. And he's going to get a +4 to that roll. Oh, an 8. And hey, AC's 8, even with his bonuses, he hits. D6 +2. Okay, he's going to do 6 points of damage to that zombie. Just right across it, ripping off chunks of rotten flesh from this thing. Okay. It is now Rangrim's turn. Rangram is just pretty much foaming at the mouth at this point. He's just like winds up his battle axe again and is just ready to kill this thing. Bash it into the cave floor. Doesn't even need them bonuses. He just hits. And hopefully he does devastating damage this time. 2 plus his... That'd be 6. Well, wait a minute. On a 1 or a 2, I can re-roll that, but I have to keep the second roll. So let me re-roll that, see if I can do a higher amount of damage. A 1. Oh, I should have kept the 2. Okay, so I'm going to do 5, 6, 7. 7 points of damage, and which will kill the zombie, maybe, because he gets this stupid save right here. And 0 hit points, which will be a 12. So the zombie will have to roll a con bonus of 12. He rolls an 8. He does not get it. The zombie is now dead. Rangram just taking the head off the thing, and it slumps to the floor as so. At that point, he puts his foot on the center of the zombie's back, and with holding his battle axe in one hand, reaches down with his other hand to retrieve Merrick's hand axe. Okay, now it is the zombie's turn. This zombie's going to get an attack on Carnu, and he gets that +3 to hit. Let's see. Ooh, 15. I think he might have actually done it that time. Right on the money. Carnu's got a 15 AC. And he's going to take 1d6 plus 1 bludgeoning damage. So he takes 5 points of damage from that. Wow. Carnu stumbles off balance for a minute and then regains his self and just like kind of like, oh, whoa. I mean, it was a heck of a, just a, all right. It's back to the top of the batting order, and it is Merrick. Merrick at that point, so a torchlight's going to put off roughly about a 15-foot radius, I believe. 15, yeah, we'll go with 15 foot. So 5, 10, 15. So this area is, he can see from the torchlight coming off of it in low dim light. But unfortunately, this guy is out of that area, so he's unable to see this zombie or even Carnu at this point. He's going to, with his bow in one hand, reach down and grab the torch up off the floor, and he walks up next to Rangram, and with this area being illuminated, he can now see the silhouette, if you will, of the zombie at that point just attacking what he can only assume is Carnu. He, at that point, as he sees Rangram reaching to grab his hand axe, he yells, "No, go!" He's like, "Go, help Carnu. I'll get my axe." Alright, that was his turn. Now it is Carnu's turn. Carnu is going to just attack with the sword in hand. So he's going to get a +4 to that roll. He hits, and he's going to do 1d6 plus 2 to the thing. Does 3 more points of damage. He just, and the zombie stumbles a little bit, but he's like, heading back towards Carnu, hungry for human flesh. Rangram at that point turns his attention towards the zombie and goes running after him with his dwarven rage, just screaming, "Rah!" and his battle axe drawn. Thirsty for more zombie blood. Alright. Mr. Rangram. +6 to his roll. So, I have to use the bonuses, which will take him to a 9. He hits. Not complaining there. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So, 15, 16, 17. So, this thing's going to have to roll a 17 or better to save. And it rolls a 3. Okay. This zombie pretty much doesn't know what hit it. Rangram's battle axe just connects with its spine, snapping it from out from underneath it as this thing just, at that point, collapses to a floor in a heap of rotted flesh, just and is pretty much out of its misery. Rangram looks over at Carnu and he's like, are you okay? Are there any more of them damn things around here? Carnu's like, I don't know yet. He says, somebody or something has this place obviously trapped and doesn't want anybody coming in here. He said, I definitely think there is something very odd or sinister behind this, and I think just like our cultist friend back in Longsaddle, he said, probably has something to do with it. Merrick, at that point, puts his bow back up into his pack where he stores it, and reaches down and he pulls his hand axe out of the zombie, and at that point wipes it off on the greaves and what left of the rotted clothing it's wearing, and resheathes it. And he looks over and he says, what do you mean, cultist? He goes, did I miss something by... And Rangram looks back and he says, yeah. He says, so unfortunately, he said, we didn't want to tell you this, but you remember when we were in the cellar? And he goes, yeah. He says the skeletons at that point and all of that nonsense. And he's like, yeah. He said, well, when we were leaving, when you were unconscious, he said, something, we don't know what. He says, but the tavern burned to the ground. And as I was running away from the area, I saw just this horrific, evil sight that was walking through the flames. I think it was a devil from the pits of hell itself. He says, ugh. And to think that whatever that was could possibly be lurking here. Merrick goes, oh, great. He says, and so hopefully we don't encounter any more devils, if you say. Carnu says, my God called me here for a reason. And he says, we have to see that through. He says, Merrick, come over here. Shine that torch on these rocks. So Merrick comes over, and as he gets closer to the rocks and they're illuminated, they can see the discoloring he was noticing as he was approaching them is dried blood on the rocks, probably from unlucky travelers that have passed this way before. Okay, that encounter definitely went more better doing it the artichoke way than just following straight out of this book. So, let me read on. So at that point, there's two areas that they can move on from here. There's one area that moves off to this way, and another area that connects off. That doesn't look that great. That connects off this way. So, which way do I want to go? As well, before I do anything, I want to search this room a little bit. I want to see, and let me go to my oracle. And let's see, is there anything of value in this room? No. Okay. So, no, but of course the way my oracle works here, I got these sub column here that throws a twist to the answer. And it says a failure, a piece of gear either for the hero or the NPC. How I'm going to interpret that is the torch begins to, at that point, flame out. And it goes. Carnu's okay, he can see. Rangram, he can make out very little. Merrick, the only thing he can see are the embers of the torch and the glow as it slowly fades away into bleak darkness to where you can't even see his hand in front of his face. He feels a hand on his shoulder and hears some familiar voice. He goes, just remain calm, lad. And he said, here, can you feel the axe? He says, maybe you could perhaps cast that spell you did before. Thinking it works better than the miserable cheap torches I bought anyway. At that point, Merrick is feeling, he could feel the blade of his axe and closes his eyes and concentrates and casts light upon his axe blade. At that point, the axe blade begins to glow vibrantly white and begins to light up this area with bright white light. Carnu just kind of, he shields his eyes and he's just like, oh, damn. He's like, that's just so, He goes, man, I preferred it the other way. And Merrick says, yeah, sure. So says the drow elf. He says, but we can't see in the complete darkness like you can. And he's like, yeah, alright. He goes, Rangram, he goes, just stay behind me so I don't have to get blinded by that. At that point, they search the area over, but they don't find anything worth of value other than a couple of dead zombies, a trap set up, and some blood-stained rocks. After they talk, they decide on, and I'm going to leave it up because I got two decisions I can go here. I can go this way, or I can go that way. They roll. I'm going to leave it up to the dice. So a 1 through 3, I'm going to go here. 4 through 6, I'm going to go there. It's a 1. We're going to go that way. Alright. I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to pick up on that.